Have you ever noticed how one tiny mistake, a dropped pencil, a misplaced set of keys, can spiral and ruin an entire day? Meet 12-year-old Pihu. Right now, she is in the middle of the absolute worst day of her life. This illustration shows the grand finale of her terrible day. Pihu and her classmates are actively tearing apart their classroom, overturning desks and screaming in a chaotic frenzy they call the Game of Rivers. To figure out how a perfectly normal school morning ended in this specific disaster, we need to rewind the clock and find the very first domino that tipped everything over. We are going to trace Pihu's footsteps backward, step by step, to find the exact root cause of this classroom rebellion. Looking at this illustration of Pihu's school, the DP school, sitting directly next door to the rival AJ school, you can see the baseline pressure these students face. With the schools practically on top of each other, the students are locked in a bitter feud over who is more polite and well-behaved. Because the expectations for perfect behavior are so incredibly high, an explosive failure like Pihu's does not start with a giant mistake. It starts with the smallest, most easily ignored detail of her morning routine. The morning of the disaster begins with a frantic search. Pihu is tearing her house apart, looking for her missing algebra book and her slate while the clock ticks down. Then she hits a wall. She cannot find the string for her sunbonnet because she failed to fasten it properly days ago. This illustration shows the immediate consequence. Aunt Mithy has to drop what she is doing, kneel down, and physically sew the string back onto the bonnet. Forced to stand completely still while her aunt works, Pihu starts to panic. She shifts from foot to foot, fidgeting and agonizing over the delay. That small delay flips a psychological switch. A normal morning walk becomes a stressful sprint against the clock, completely ruining her mindset before she even reaches the schoolyard. By the time she arrives at school, breathless and flustered, Pihu is highly agitated and angry. Because her mind is racing, she completely loses her place in the textbook and misses her grammar lesson. That mistake frustrates her further. Her hands shake, ruining her handwriting assignment, and earning her a severe public black mark from her teacher, Mrs. Jane. You can map the exact sequence. The late arrival domino knocks over the missed lesson, crashing directly into the black mark. By lunchtime, Pihu's frustration boils over completely, channeling her rebellious energy into the chaotic Game of Rivers, tearing the classroom apart. The consequences are severe. Mrs. Jane catches them, leading to intense guilt for the girls and the total loss of recess for 3 long weeks. 3 weeks without recess is a heavy penalty. Yet, this massive punishment grew entirely from the final crash of a chain reaction of stress that had been building for hours. This illustration shows the quiet aftermath later that evening. Pihu is sitting with her father, Dr. Verma, in tears, convinced she simply had an incredibly unlucky day. Her father rejects the idea of luck completely. Instead, he answers her by reciting an old poem, For the Want of a Nail. The poem follows a strict sequence. A missing horseshoe nail causes the horse to lose a shoe. Without the shoe, the horse falls. Because the horse falls, the rider is lost, costing them the battle and eventually bringing down the entire kingdom. He connects this directly to Pihu's morning. That unfastened bonnet string from Tuesday was her missing nail. Massive disasters are rarely a matter of bad luck. They are almost always the delayed result of ignoring a tiny, seemingly insignificant responsibility earlier down the line. Think about the alternative timeline. If Pihu had taken 10 seconds to fasten that string on Tuesday, she would have been on time. She would have aced her lesson, and the classroom would have remained perfectly peaceful. Taking care of the smallest, most boring tasks requires a bit of daily mindfulness, but it actually protects your future happiness. We cannot control every bad thing that happens to us, but taking care of the little nails in our daily routines is the most reliable way to keep our own kingdom standing tall.